everyone, my name is Hanli. What is your name? How are you today? I'm fine. Let's read some books to 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 you have an interesting day, okay? And you remember Magic Tree House? Listen to the night at dawn. Magic Tree House. Listen to the night at dawn. We go to the castle, right? And now we're going to read chapter 6 to chapter 10. Okay, does anyone have books? If you have, you can read with me too. Chapter 6 is, ta-da, page 36. Okay, let me open page 36. Chapter 6, ta-da. In the torchlight, Yak saw 3 huge men standing over him. One with very squinty eyes held the torch, one with a very red face held Yak, and one with a very long mustache held on to Annie. Annie was kicking and yelled. "Stop!" said the one with a very long mustache. What do?" said the one with a very red face. "Spies. Foreigners. Egyptians. Romans. Persians," said the squinty-eyed one. "No, you dummies," said Annie. "Oh, brother, young murdered. Arrest them," said Red Face. "The dungeon," said Squinty Eyes. The guards marched Yak and Annie out of an armory. "Go," said the guard, giving him a push. Yak went. Squinty, Annie, Mustache, Yak, and Red marched down the long, dark hallway. They marched down a narrow, windy staircase. Yak heard Annie shouting at the guards. "Menace! We didn't do anything." The guards laughed. "Ha ha ha." At the bottom of the stairs was a big iron door with a bar across it. Squinty lifted the bar. He shoved the door, and it creaked open. Mustache and Red pushed Yak and Annie into a cold, clammy room. The very torch lit the dungeon. There were chains hanging from the walls, water dripped from a ceiling, making puddles on the stone floor. It was the creepiest place Jack had ever seen. "We'll keep them here till the feast is done, then turn them over to the Duke," said Squinty. "He knows how to take care of thieves." "There will be a hanging tomorrow," said Mustache. "If the rats don't get them first," said Red. They all laughed. Yak thought his backpack moved, and he was quietly opening it. "Come on, let's chain to the 2 of them," said Squinty. The girl started toward Yak and Annie, and he whipped her flashlight out of Yak's pack. "Ta-da!" she yelled. The girls froze. They stared at the shining flashlight in Annie's hand. Annie switched on the light. The girls gasped. They yanked back against the wall. Squinty dropped the torch. It fell into a dirty mud puddle on the floor, sputtered, and went out. "My magic went," Annie said, waving the flashlight. "Get down, or I'll wipe you out." Yak's mouth dropped open. Annie fiercely pointed her light at Squinty, then at Mustache, and then at Red. Each held and covered his face. "Down, all of you! Get down!" shouted Annie. One by one, the girls knelt down on the wet floor. They couldn't believe it. "Come on," Annie whispered to Yak. "Let's go now." Yak looked at the open doorway. He looked at the girls, squawking on the ground. "Hurry," said Annie. In one quick leap, Yak followed Annie. out of a terrible dungeon. Chapter 7. A Secret Passage. Annie and Jack raced back up the windy stairs and down the long hallway. They hadn't gone far when they heard shouting behind them. Dogs barking in the distance. "They're coming!" Annie cried. "In here," said Jack. He shoved open a door of a hallway and pulled Annie into a dark room. Jack pushed the door shut. Then Annie shined a flashlight around the room. There were rows of sacks and wooden barriers. "I'd better look in the book," said Jack, pulling out the book and flipping through the pages. "Shh," said Annie. "Shh," said Annie. "Someone's coming." Jack and Annie jumped behind the door as it creaked open. Jack held his breath. A light from a torch danced wildly over the sacks and barrels. The light disappeared. The door slammed shut. "Oh man," whispered Jack. "We have to hurry. They might come back." His hands were trembling as he turned the pages of his castle book. "Here's a map of a castle," he said. "Look, this must be the room we're in. It's a storeroom." Jack studied the room in the book. "These are sacks of flours and barrels of wine." "Who cares? We have to go," said Annie, "before they come back." "No, look," said Jack. He pointed at the map. "There's a trapdoor." He read aloud. In this castle, a trapdoor led from the storeroom through a secret passage to a precipice over the moat. "What's a precipice?" said Annie. "I don't know." "We'll find out," said Jack. But first, we have to find the trapdoor." He looked at the picture carefully. Then he shined the flashlight around the room. The floor of the room was made of stones. The trapdoor in the picture was 5 stones from a door to the hallway. Jack shined the light on the floor and counted the stones out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He stamped on the 5th stone. It was loose. Jack put the flashlight on the door. He whirled his fingers under the thin slab of a stone and tried to lift it. "Help!" Jack said. "It's heavy." And he helped Jack lift the stone scare out of his place. Underneath was a small wooden door. Jack and Annie tugged on the rope handle of the door. The door fell open with a thud. Jack picked up the flashlight and shined it down the hole. "There's a little ladder," he said. "Let's go." He clipped the flashlight onto his belt and felt his way down a small ladder. And he followed. When they reached the bottom of the ladder, Jack shined the light around them. There was a tunnel. Jack crouched down and began moving through the damp, creepy tunnel. The flashlight dimly flickered across the stone walls. He shook the light. "Well, the battery's going dead. I think our light's dying," he said to Annie. "Hurry," she called from behind him. He went faster. His back hurt from crouching. The light got dimmer and dimmer. He was desperate to get out of the castle before the batteries died completely. Soon he reached another small wooden door. It was a door at the end of the tunnel. Jack unlatched the door and pushed it open. He poked his head outside. He couldn't see anything in misty darkness. The air felt cold and fresh. He took a deep breath. "Where are we?" whispered Annie behind him. "What do you see?" "Nothing, but I think we've come to the outside of the castle," said Jack. "I found out." Jack put a flashlight in his bag. He put the pack on his back. He stuck his head out the door. He couldn't feel the ground. "I'm going to have to go feet first," he said. He turned around in the small tunnel. Then he lay down on his stomach. He stuck one leg out He stuck one leg out the door, then the other. Yak entered down beat by beat until he was hanging out the door, clinging to the ledge. This must be the precipice, he called to Annie. I can't touch the ground. Pull me up. Annie reached up for Yak's hands. I can't hold you, she said. Yak felt his fingers slipping. Then down he fell through the darkness. Splash! Chapter 8. The night. Water filled Yak's nose and covered his head. His glasses slipped off. He grabbed them just in time. He coughed and felt his arms. Yak! Annie was calling from above. I'm in the moat, said Yak, gasping for air. He tried to tread water and put his glasses back on with his backpack, his shoes, and his heavy clothes. He could barely still stay afloat. Splash! Hi, I'm here, Annie sputtered. Yak could hear Annie nearby, but he couldn't see her. Which way's land? Annie asked. I don't know. Just swim. Yak dog paddled through the cold black water. He heard Annie swimming too. At first, it seemed as if she was swimming in front of him, but then he heard a splash behind him. Annie, he called. What? Her voice came from in front, not behind. Another splash. Behind. Yak's heart almost stopped. Crocodiles? He couldn't see anything through his water-streaked glasses. Annie, he whispered. What? Swim faster. But I'm here. I'm over here. Near the edge. She whispered. Yak swam through the dark toward her voice. He imagined a crocodile slithering after him. Yak's hand touched a wet, living thing. Ah! He cried. It's me. Take my hand, said Annie. Yak grabbed her hand. She pulled him to the edge of a moat. They crawled over an embankment onto the wet grass. Oh man, Yak said. He was shivering all over. His teeth were chattering. He shook the water of his glasses and put them back on. It was so misty. He couldn't see the castle. He couldn't even see the moat, much less a crocodile. We made it, said Annie. Her teeth were chattering too. I know, said Yak. But where are we? He peered at the foggy darkness. Where was the drawbridge? The windmill? The house? The golf tree? The tree house? Everything had been swallowed up by the thick, soapy darkness. Yak reached into his wet backpack and pulled out the flashlight. He pushed the switch. Nothing happened. The batteries were dead. They were trapped, but not in a dungeon. They were trapped in the still, cold darkness. Nee! The horses went through the night. The clouds parted. A full moon was shining in the sky. A pool of light spread through the mist. Yak and Annie saw a shadowy figure just a few feet away. It was a knight. The knight sat on the black horse. His armor shone in the moonlight. A visor hid his face, but he seemed to be staring straight at Yak and Annie. Chapter 9. Under the Moon. Yak froze. It's him, Annie whispered. The knight held out his gloved hand. Come on, Yak, Annie said. Where are you going? Said Yak. Who wants to help us? Said Annie. How do you know? Said Yak. I can just tell, said Annie. They stepped toward the horse. The knight dismounted. The knight picked Annie up and put her on the back of his horse. Come on, Yak, Annie called. Yak moved slowly toward the knight. The knight lifted him up too and put him on the horse behind Annie. The knight then got on behind them. He slapped the reins. The black horse cantered beside the moonlit water of a moat. Yak rocked back and forth in the saddle. The wind blew his hair. He felt very brave and very powerful. He felt as if he could ride forever on this horse. With this mysterious night, over the ocean, over the world, over the moon, a hawk shrieked in the darkness. "There's no treehouse," said Annie. She pointed toward the grove of trees. The knight guided the horse toward the trees. "See, there it is," Annie said, pointing to the leader. The knight brought his horse to a stop. He dismounted and helped Annie and Yak down. "Thank you, sir," Annie said. She bowed. "Thank you," Yak said. He bowed too. The knight got back on his horse. He raised his gloved hands, then he slapped the reins and rode off through the mist. Annie started up the tall ladder. Yak followed. They climbed into the dark treehouse and looked out the window. The knight was riding toward the outer wall of a castle. They saw him go through the outer gate. Clouds started to cover the moon again. For a brief moment, Jack thought he saw the knight's armor gleaming on the top of a hill behind the castle. The clouds covered the moon completely. A black mist swallowed the land. "He's gone," whispered Annie. Jack shivered in his wet clothes as he kept staring at the blackness. "I'm cold," said Annie. "Where's the Pennsylvania book?" Jack heard Annie fumbling in the darkness. He kept looking out the window. "I think this is it," said Annie. "I feel a silk bookmark." Jack was only half listening. He was hoping to see the knight's armor gleam again in the distance. "Okay, I'm going to use this," said Annie, "because I think it's the right one. Here goes." "Okay, I'm pointing. I'm going to make a wish. I wish we could go to Frog Creek." Yak heard the wind begin to blow softly. "I hope I pointed to the right picture in the right book," said Annie. "What?" Yak looked back at her. "Right picture, right book." The treehouse began to rock. The wind got louder and louder. "I hope it wasn't the dinosaur book," said Annie. "Stop!" Yak shouted at the treehouse. Too late. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10. One mystery solved. The air was warm. It was dawn. Far away, a dog barked. "I think that's Henry barking," Annie said. Yak and Annie both looked out the treehouse window. "We're home," said Annie. "Yay!" "That was close," said Yak. In the distance, street lights glowed near the house. There was a light on in their upstairs window. "Uh-oh," said Annie. "I think Mom and Dad are up." "Hurry!" "Wait!" In a daze, Yak opened his pack. He pulled out the castle. It was quite wet, but Yak placed it back with all the other books. "Come on," said Annie. She started climbing out of the treehouse. Yak followed her down the road later. They reached the ground and took off running between the gray-black trees. They left the woods and ran down the quiet street. They go to the yard and crept across the lawn. They opened the front door carefully and slipped inside the house. "They're not downstairs yet," whispered Annie. "Shh," said Yak. He led the way up the stairs and down the hall. There was no sign of their mom or dad, but Yak could hear water running in the bathroom. Their house was so different from a dark, cold castle. It was safe and cozy and friendly. And he stopped at her bedroom door. She gave Yak a smile that disappeared inside her room. He hurried into his room. He took off his damp clothes and put on his dry, soft pajamas. He sat down on his bed and opened his backpack. He took out his wet notebook. He felt around for the dark pencil, but his hand touched something else. Jack pulled the blue leather bookmark out of his bag. It must have fallen out of a castle book. Jack held the bookmark close to his lamp and started it. The leather was smooth and worn. It seemed ancient. For the first time, Jack noticed a letter on the bookmark. It was a fancy M. Jack opened the drawer next to his bed. He took out the gold medallion. He looked at the letter on it. It was the same M. Jack now, there was an amazing new fact. Jack took a deep breath. It lists that was one mystery solved. The person who had dropped the gold medallion in the time of the dinosaurs was the same person who owned all the books in the treehouse. Who was this person? Jack placed the bookmark next to the medallion and closed the door. Jack picked up his old pencil. He turned to the last wet page in his notebook and started to write down this new fact, the same. But before he could draw the end, his eyes closed. Jack dreamed they were with the knights again. All three of them were riding the black horse through the cold, dark night. They rode beyond the outer wall of a castle and up over a moonlit hill. Then they all rode into the mist. Lords and ladies. In the Middle Ages, most rich people were nobles. Nobles came from families that had been wealthy for a long time. Noble women were called ladies. They could also have titles such as baroness, duchess, or countess. Lady Anne, Countess of Pennsylvania. Noblemen sometimes had titles such as Baron, Duke, or Count. Lord Jack, Duke of Forkwick. The feudal system helped keep order during the Middle Ages, but it wasn't very fair. A person almost always had to be born into the nobility to be nobility. Even people who worked very hard and became rich could not normally become nobles. Today, in Europe, America, and many other places around the world, people are free to try to be almost anything they want. Not fair. Annie for president. Vote for Annie. Okay, so bye bye now. See you later.